Nottingham Forest 0, Manchester United 2. A pretty comprehensive performance from Manchester United, I would say. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. What did you make of that? To me, going away to any ground in the Premier League and not registering a shot on target against you is a pretty decent game, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would say compound that with the fact that we've been gash away from home. Then there's probably layers to why that's a good performance. And I think one of the things that I thought stood out for me was I thought our work rate was really good. I thought our regaining of shape was really good. And I think that was one of the reasons that we prevented having any, shots on target whatsoever. And I think when you compound that on top of how bad we were at Newcastle not very long ago at all, with those exact things, I think, massive positives. All right, Nottingham Forest are not exactly lighting the world on fire at the moment, but neither are some of the places that we've dropped points to. So with the results going our way this weekend, I think it's a big 3 points up.
Who do you think stood out today? Because I thought, for me, I think that's the best. That might be the best game we've seen from Anthony for United. I thought he was really good today. He did a lot of really good things. Did you think Anthony was good, or am I sort of overblowing it a little bit?
No, Anthony was good. If you stood out for me the most, probably Bruno. But Anthony had 7 shots, which is a little bit on the greedy side. But you want your forwards to be greedy. Ruud van Nistelrooy, probably the greediest one I've ever seen. Cristiano Ronaldo, probably one of the greediest ones I've ever seen. To be good, you've generally got to be greedy. And he was having a lot of shots, and players only have shots when they're confident. So I would like him to take a little bit more risk in terms of trying to get past his man, but he was making space for himself and getting his shots off. So 7 shots in a game, am I happy with the return? I'd like him to score 2 out of that, really, rather than just the 1. But yeah, pretty happy with that, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and one thing that he's got a lot of criticism for is his low assists and not creating enough for others. I thought the run and the pass for Dallow's goal, not only did it kill the game and it was a massive goal in and of itself, I thought the run and pass were brilliant. That was sort of Sancho level kind of delicate passing through the lines. I wasn't particularly sure that Anthony had that in his locker, to be honest.
Well, he did have it in his locker when he was at Ajax, and you see him doing quite a lot of that, coming into that sort of central zone and then finding runs off him. But he hasn't really done that a lot. He's been properly limited to the wing and sort of the right half space a little bit when he's been playing for United. He's not really ventured across the centre line, has he? Especially with the ball, it's not something that you've seen him do. Weghorst probably wasn't happy with it, although with the way Weghorst's finishing is, it was definitely the right decision to not pass it to Weghorst earlier in the move. But what a run from Dallow from deep. A sensational run. Underlapping fullback all the way into the centre of the box. Brilliant stuff. And we saw a lot of that out of Luke Shaw earlier in the season. I actually think it's a mistake. I think it's an over... What's the word I'm looking for? Over-enthusiastic sort of understanding of the shape, because obviously it's the first time he's played under Ten Hag as a left-back. And I think the way Ten Hag likes the fullbacks to come into the half space a little bit, I think he came a little bit too far. We saw Luke Shaw doing tons of that early in the season. So I think it was probably him being a little bit enthusiastic with that, because he had a few shots himself, didn't he? Apart from the one he scored. So I think he was getting into those areas, taking advantage of the fact that he was, playing left back, being predominantly right-footed. But I thought his run was sensational, and I'd agree. Anthony coming into that is a dimension that could really add a lot to the attack if he's able to build on that and continue to do that. What he added the other night that we saw in the Europa League and even the previous weeks, where he's been able to go left and right around people. If he's got that ability and he's getting the ability to come into the centre of the pitch to line people up, and he's got runners coming off him, you become dangerous.
Yeah, I thought it was much more dangerous. Like you said, dangerous is a good word. We mentioned Bruno there. I thought he was brilliant. Again, these last few games post Newcastle, against Sevilla even, I thought he was excellent. Against Everton, and today especially, I think Bruno's been phenomenal. Like playing in the 6, in the 8, in the 10, out on the left, out on the right. He just does everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he does it with an urgency as well, which I think modern footballers lacked a little bit, but United especially have lacked of late, is players just playing with a little bit of urgency. Some people will call it passion, and I think that's missing the target a little bit. I think it's urgency. I think he's got a really, really high football IQ. And I think whatever's happened with the development that he's undergone under Ten Hag, we've seen the evolution of Bruno Fernandes just in the last month, where he's actually stopped being someone that was like the one criticism United fans or anybody else could have of him was that he was a bit wasteful sometimes. And I always defended that because I was like, yeah, he's trying stuff. He is the most creative player in the Premier League. And if he's not, he's second because him and De Bruyne kind of duke it out a little bit, don't they, for who's number one. But it's him or De Bruyne. And you've got to think De Bruyne is working with a far more finished product that has a lot more possession than we have. So I would imagine, like, per percentage point of possession, Bruno is the most creative player in the Premier League, probably by some way, I would think it is. So I never really minded him losing the ball because he was always trying to do something. But what he's added to his game in the last month is this element of control, this element of maturity. He's still petulant, he's still emotional, he's still got the creative drive. I mean, some of the through balls and stuff that he was playing today were top tier, like textbook, go and show a kid how to play football sort of chance creation. And this I'm excited about because the numbers he got, goals and assists, have been staggering. Is he second only to Messi, I think, in the time since he signed?
Since he joined United,
Ridiculous, innit? Ridiculous. Yeah. So if he adds an element of control into that as well, like, people need to start putting a little bit of respect on him, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking forward, slightly bigger picture then. How does this make you feel for top four with 3 points clear of Newcastle, same games, 6 points clear of Tottenham, extra game in hand as well as that? I think behind that then you've got Villa 3 points behind that. In terms of top four, and also, what did you see out of this sort of back four? Because that's where we've had most injuries, most disruption. Shaw, Varane and Martinez all out. How do you see that back four going ahead to Sevilla and for the rest of the season?
On the bigger picture side of the rest of the top four, I'm pretty sure Newcastle play Spurs either next or very soon. So someone else dropping points in there is massive for us. The fact that both of them lost this weekend is huge. It takes the pressure off us in such a big way. And then us going and getting that win is massive. And I think that doesn't secure it for us because there's 8 games, basically a quarter of the season still to go. So there's still actually quite a lot of football still to be played. And United could definitely still balls it up from now. We definitely could. Especially with the injuries that we've got, we could easily have a couple of 0-0s and not even blink about them because they would be so easy for us to get. I don't like this back four. In possession, Maguire aside, I haven't really got too many qualms. Defensively, yes, they kept a clean sheet today. Yes, they limited it to no shots on target. But if that's all people are going to analyse this defence on, I think they're missing the mark in a big way. I thought Maguire was poor, and I'm not here to sort of like generate hatred against the United player, but you also can't ignore if someone's being this poor. And I thought his performance was worthy of note. It was that bad. He got away with the handball. There was other things where, the rugby tackle 5 minutes into the game, he could have easily found himself on a second yellow because he's clumsy enough to do so. Even look at what Bruno got a yellow for the other night. He could easily have done that at some point during the rest of the game. So I thought Maguire worries me in a big way, to be honest. And I think it feels to me like he's getting worse. Like, it doesn't feel like
second half he looked a little bit better. I thought he had a shaky start, shaky first 30 minutes or so, but I thought second half was definitely better than the first half. Or do you just think it was poor throughout?
I thought Nottingham Forest didn't threaten us in the same ways in the second half. I thought United probably had more control. I don't know what the possession stats were first half versus second half, but even on the ball, like, there wasn't a single line breaking pass. There wasn't, because he's not scanning, because he's not aware of his surroundings, because he's not aware of where everybody else is on the pitch, you'll never get a first-time pass out of him. He's the one player that's in possession forever. And it just seems that he's all. Anytime you look at the TV, it's him on the ball with the ball at his feet, isn't it? Looking around. And the reason for that is because he's not aware of what's going on around him. When he gets on the ball, he then has to make the decision. He hasn't made the decision of where the ball's going to go before it comes to him. And that's when you can start catching the opposition off guard. So many times you see him pass it to Wan-Bissaka, and then they end up having to pass it back to him because he's given it to Wan-Bissaka so late that everybody knows it's going to Wan-Bissaka. And then Wan-Bissaka gets pressed, does well to keep hold of it, has to turn around, and then sends it back to Maguire. And then ultimately we end up going all the way back to De Gea with it because he's not got that impetus. He hasn't got the skill to be able to smash it through the lines first time before everybody's set and realised that he's got it. The whole idea of being a ball-playing centre-half and being a ball-playing possession-based team is being able to work the ball into areas. And you can't work the ball into areas unless you're doing it with speed. Like the idea of the whole sort of tiki-taka philosophy is, can you draw players towards you to draw them out of another area? And he ain't doing that. You know, he doesn't take it to the line and try and release a pass last minute by drawing a player. You don't really see that from him. You will see him under no pressure take ages, a really laboured decision to pass it to someone. And then from a technical point of view, the pass is behind someone. They've got to turn around. We don't start attacks with him. The whole idea of being a ball-playing team is that you start your attacks by moving the ball through the thirds. Like, if I said to you, look at how he treats the ball, look at how the likes of Martinez treat the ball. When you see Martinez smashing it into midfield and sometimes even beyond, so United can turn the opposition around. Maguire almost keeps possession, but he doesn't advance up the pitch with it. He either stays still or ends up going a little bit backwards with it. It's well frustrating, and I don't want to focus on him after a victory. But I know that there'll be people go, clean sheet, didn't have a shot on target, everyone in the defence had a good game. And I think that's just such surface level analysis when there's so much more going on. And even when you haven't got the ball, you know, he does what he does in the first 5 minutes, gets a yellow card. But then what I was noticing for a lot of the second half is because he was so scared of the pace of Nottingham Forest, he was 10, 15 yards further back than where he probably should have been. And when you're 10, 15 yards further back, that's 10, 15 yard extra space in midfield, which makes it harder for you to then compress the teams in midfield. And Nottingham Forest, it didn't matter. But in the bigger games, that matters. And that's the difference between you winning and losing in a big game. And it, like I said, I'm not trying to generate hate on a United player because that's not what I'm about. But I'm also not going to not talk about it if I don't think his performance is up to it.
So to answer my question, you didn't think the second half was any better? Just in a word.
I thought it was different. I thought there was different things happening. But I think it's so clumsy. I mean, there was... Yeah. It's a clumsiness and a lack of words. I mean, was it the game last week, Sevilla game? The ball's gone back to him and he's gone to trap it under his foot and he's missed it. It's an £80 million Manchester United
player. I think with Maguire is, we've got to a point where we know that he's not going to be the future of Man United, the 80 million captain that comes in and wins the Premier League. No, I don't think anyone is under that illusion anymore. The question now is... No,
but I think he is. This is a man that, when he gets to speak, comes out with things like, I've got nothing to prove.
But it's almost irrelevant whether he thinks it or not. If the manager clearly doesn't, and the fan base clearly don't. I don't think anyone who's in charge of whether he plays for Man United or not thinks that he's going to do that. The question is, though, can you play against Sevilla? Can you play against Tottenham and Brighton and these teams that we've got coming up and keep us in the top four? Can you progress us in one or both of the cups? That's the question, isn't it? And I think hopefully he can. But do you see that as a possibility? Varane and Martinez out, Lindelof and Maguire. Can we get past Brighton? Can we get past Sevilla? Can we stay in the top four before hopefully Varane comes back towards the end of the season?
You say it doesn't matter. You say it doesn't matter, but that mentality to me is a problem. That I've got nothing to prove mentality is a huge problem to me because I get the smell that that's what he actually thinks. I don't think this is bravado. I don't think this is trying to protect his brand or being PR. I actually think he thinks that because I don't see any attempt to fix the issues in his game. Now, he might go, do you know what? I ain't the quickest and I'm never going to be as fast as this guy or this guy or this guy. So to compensate for that, to play the position that Ten Hag wants, like he's never come out and gone, actually, yeah, this is a different style of play and I've got a little bit to do to learn it. He just goes, manager picks me every week. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he'd have come out and said something like, oh, yeah, listen, it hurts not playing. I signed to play and I want to play and I'm trying to learn as much as I can of the manager to implement the things that he wants. I'm not in the starting 11 at the moment. I think I can get back. Whether or not he's going to get in. Every single player thinks that they should be playing, right or wrong. So I just don't see the desire to analyze his own game and for him to see what everybody else is seeing and then go, what are those things can I work on? Because some of those things he could work on.
Yeah.
He's got the time to work on them. So I don't understand why we haven't seen him do that. And I think it's down to the mentality. And it's that I've got nothing to prove mentality. And that's what's frustrating. And again, I don't want to just dig someone out. I try and be constructive with it as much as possible where we can and talk about the pure footballing aspects of what's going right and what's going wrong. If United have got a game where we've got our backs to the wall, he is very effective in those situations because he's very good at defending the box, certainly from the aerial threats. But the way that we're utilising, the way that this manager wants to play, there are gaping holes in his game and there's an arrogance about him, which I don't think is justified, that I can see it costing us. We've got some huge games, FA Cup semi-finals, hopefully Europa League semi-finals. Like we've got all of these things on the cards when, because of the injury to Martinez, he is probably going to have to play. And if there was a humbleness about him, a desire to learn, a desire to prove, because the words he's saying is, I've got nothing to prove. You're not fucking playing. Like, the players that are playing, between them didn't cost as much as you. The three of them, more or less. Yeah. And three of them are playing ahead of you. Sometimes even pick a left back ahead of you. So that I've got nothing to prove scares me for the final part of the season. Because if it was the other way around, and it was someone that wasn't quite as good, and they were like, listen, yeah, I've got a lot to work on, and I will do my best. Believe me, I will do whatever I need to do to make sure I'm ready and I do this and the other. Or say fucking nothing. Because Lindelof might feel the same way, but we never hear from him. So you can't analyse and think about what Lindelof's saying.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think it's going to be, we're going to find out, aren't we? There's a few players in that team, I think, you're looking at those front areas, you're looking at that defensive area, you're looking at the back where there's a few players here where if it doesn't work out, if this doesn't end well, if this season is a disaster, they might not be here next season. So either way, we're about to find out. Thank you for joining us today. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Manchester United 2, Nottingham Forest 0. We'll see you in a bit.